Okay, yesterday we looked at the major terminologies that we use in maintenance and rehabilitation of concrete structures, and then how those things will influence the performance of your structure. So, at what stage you need to do rehabilitation or restoration or retrofitting for your structures, right? So, then we looked at am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is corrosion? So we looked at what is corrosion and why does iron corrode, right? So basically, the ore which was used for forming the metal, and due to the exposed condition, the metal gets back to its lowest energy form by corroding. And we looked at the basic elements that being used in steel for obtaining its property and how does it vary for different types of rebars that we have. And in today's class, we look at what is concrete, right? So what is concrete? So you have studied in your previous course.
Ma'am, it is a mixture of mortar and fine aggregate in definite proportion.
Yeah, good. So what is the product that we obtain from it? End product?
Concrete, ma'am.
Yeah, concrete is fine, but you have told no, so you have the mixture of cement, aggregates, water. So when we have such mixture, the reaction takes place. Due to that reaction, we get some hydrated products in the form of CSH and calcium hydroxide, sodium oxide, potassium oxide, right? So remember or not? So in this reaction, you get the CSH gel and calcium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide and potassium hydroxide. So these are the elements that we have, right? So what is the role of CSH gel?
Initial strength.
Yeah, initial strength. Basically, the cement that we use that binds the all the mixtures that you keep that you add to prepare the concrete, right? So you need to have a binding property, and this CSS gel that is formed that has a binding capacity, and that gives you the strength to the concrete. And when we have hydroxides in concrete, so how does it help concrete to achieve its property? So what is the role of hydroxides in concrete?
I mean, it is responsible for efflorescence.
Sorry?
And for efflorescence, it is responsible.
Efflorescence is something that reaction occurs when water reacts with calcium hydroxide. It's kind of duration property. So initially, when we have hydroxides, so that basically helps your concrete to have high pH value. All right. So do you remember the pH value of concrete? So can you tell the pH value of concrete? So in the concrete port solution, you will be having hydroxide ions, which will help you the concrete to have high pH. So generally, the pH range of concrete would be from any idea?
11 to 12.
Yeah, so it is around 12 to 13. in concrete, right? So this high pH value basically like helps your concrete to protect the steel when you use steel and concrete together. So your pH value of concrete rise in the range of about from 12 to 13. And when we use, in general, when we have reinforced concrete, where we have steel embedded in concrete, so this pH value of concrete helps your steel to be protected from corrosion. So here you can see a diagram, four-wise diagram. So basically this gives you the range at which your steel will start corrode. So the potential range of corrosion and then the pH value for the when it can start corrode. So you can see the passivity here, and when your pH gets reduced below 9, so it will start corrode. All right. So here in this range, typically for concrete, you will have the pH value in the range of 12 to 13. So in that case, you will have a good passive layer formed around the steel, which will protect the steel from corrosion. So this is the typical range of potential of steel in concrete. So which has tendency to resist the corrosion when your steel is in high pH value of about 12 to 13. So as the pH reduces, so you can see it will start corrode. So now let us look at how the steel reacts when it is inside the concrete, right? So why steel embedded in uncontaminated concrete does not corrode? So this uncontaminated concrete means, so when we have concrete that is free from any chloride or carbon dioxide, which could cause corrosion, right? So the main reason for this is that the high pH of concrete pore solution. So when you have steel subjected to the high pH environment, that will not corrode. So this we basically call it as protective layer. Otherwise we call it as passive layer, which helps to protect the steel from corrosion. So typically these layers, so here you can see a thin passive layer formed. So this is indicated in this green mark. So this will be a thin, invisible, and it's a stable layer of initial corrosion. Corrosion products, iron oxide and hydroxides. Now this passive film is nothing but initial formation of rust. But that initial formation of rust is stable when you have high pH value. So that is why it acts as a protective layer, that we call it as passive film. So however, this protective layer or the passive film will start degrading when it is exposed to aggressive environment in a continuous manner. So the corrosion can occur when the rebar or the concrete which has the rebar exposed to aggressive conditions. All right. So what are the things that are essential for the corrosion to occur? So here you can look at the basic mechanism behind the corrosion. So to corrosion to occur, you need to have four basic components, or those are the essential parts of any corrosion shell. So one is that anode. So here you can see anode, and another one is that cathode. Then you need to have a conductor. So in the form of ionic conductor, and then you need to have an electronic conductor. Here in this case, you can see the portion which is corroding from the metal surface, this region. So this basically indicates that your metal is corroding and it has lost its uh, um, original metal surface to some extent. And the region which is corroding, so that is what we call it as anode, and then the remaining region on the steel, so that will generally act as a cathode. So where the potential is See, whichever region which has a high potential, so the energy state will be higher. So when the energy state is higher at this point, so what will do? So it will try to it will try to reduce its energy stage by reacting it. So here the reaction is corrosion. So when it is corroding, the energy state is getting reduced to get equilibrium with the condition. So here the anode is corroding and the cathode, which has less that accelerates the process. So the anode to cathode reaction that plays a major role in affecting the corrosion. So the remaining region helps this anode to corrode, and then the electric charge actually get passed from cathode to the anode. So that is what here it is mentioned as current flow, electric conduction. So here from anode, so this is the one which is corroding, so which releases some amount of ion. So for example, if you have Fe metal here, so the Fe electron, you will have some ionic conduction from anode to cathode, so it will lose some amount of ion from the actual metal surface. So here you can note the current flows in the opposite direction as the electron moves from the cathode to anode. So here when the electron moves from the cathode to anode, anode loses its ionic nature, and you will see the current flow from anode to cathode. So here you can see the anodic reaction. This is what I was mentioning, that when you have a Fe metal ion, so during this anodic reaction, oxidation process, it loses some amount of electrons, Fe2 plus 2E minus. So when we have cathodic reaction, so what happens here, the electron that is going here, so again that comes back here to corrode the anode. So for I would like to mention here is that to cathodic reaction to occur, or to any corrosion process to occur, you need to have two basic elements. So one is oxygen should be there and water should be there. Without these two presence, the corrosion reaction will not occur. So even if you have chloride or carbon dioxide, that doesn't matter. Even if you do not have chloride or if you do not have carbon dioxide, if your structure is subjected to only oxygen and water, then it will start corrode. So for that you can see an example here. This is a concrete pier located in a marine environment, so which is subjected to wet dry cycle. So here you can see the some part of the structure is immersed in water and some part of the structure is exposed to the environment condition. So here the portion that is there under the water will be in good condition, and similarly the portion that is above the water condition to some extent, so that will also be in good condition, whereas the portion that is in between, which is subjected to wet dry cycle, so water will get contact with this portion and then it will move away. So this will be subjected to a wet dry cycle over the time. So this portion will constantly have the exposure to both moisture and oxygen, whereas this portion will be subjected to only only oxygen, and this portion will be subjected to only moisture. So the region which is subjected to both moisture and oxygen, that will start corroding. So to corrosion to occur, you need to have both oxygen and water. So when you have such favorable scenario for corrosion to occur, you will start observing such anodic reaction to take place. So that means your Fe will become Fe2 plus ion plus some electron forming on it. So this will lead to ionic conduction, and then further this electron that is moving from anode to cathode, so that flows back with oxygen and moisture, so that forms the hydroxyl ion. So that hydroxyl ion will reach the anode from cathode, and that will lead to the further reaction. So this is what happens during the corrosion process. You will have two reactions. One is the anodic reaction, another one is cathodic reaction. During the anodic reaction, your metal will start losing its potential due to high energy state level. So it becomes Fe2 plus 2 electrons, and during the cathodic reaction, those electrons released from anode that reacts with water and moisture that will lead to the formation of hydroxyl ion. So here in detail you can look at how corrosion of steel in water with oxygen. So as I mentioned here, so you have anode. So in anode your potential energy state is high. So the Fe becomes Fe2 plus electrons. So these electrons will move away from anode and that will reach the cathode. So what happens in cathode? In cathode you have oxygen and moisture, and now you have this electron coming from the anode and that will lead to the cathodic reaction and you will have the formation of hydroxyl ion. So now you have a hydroxyl ion in cathode, and then from anode you have Fe2 plus. So this hydroxyl ion, what happens? This again comes back to the anode and this reacts with the available Fe2 plus here and that will lead to the formation of rust called FeOH twice. Is that clear how the corrosion process takes place? And now let's look at how is this brought about on the same piece of metal. So when we have corrosion, so the corrosion can occur within the same material, or the corrosion can occur between two different type of materials, or the corrosion can occur between two different elements of same material itself. Okay. So I mentioned that the anode is corroding because the potential state, the energy state in that particular portion is high. So it tries to lower its energy state by reacting it. So because of that potential difference in the same material or in the same element, one is tend to react more than the other, and that region which reacts more, that is corroding. All right. So in addition to the presence of electrolyte is something that is required for the acceleration. So here in this case you have this electrolyte in the sense that maybe the alkaline situation, alkaline environment, or you may have some amount of solution there for corrosion to occur. So in addition to the presence of electrolyte, you need to have a potential difference between the anode and cathode. If both your anode and cathode are in same potential energy, then the corrosion will not occur. So what are the things that could cause the potential difference? So the potential difference in the sense, so that may happen at the interface of your reinforced concrete when you have your reinforcement embedded in concrete, and during the manufacturing process there could be some differential composition in your metal. So that non-uniformity of the metal could lead to the local differences in the potential. And the electrolyte that we have for the process, if there is a non-uniformity between those electrolyte, and that will lead to the formation of potential difference. And then the physical conditions. So if the physical condition is different between at the interface, and that will lead to the non-uniformity of the metal. So let us look at each cases in detail, how this will lead to the formation of potential difference. So here is the first case when you have non-uniformity of the microstructure of steel, so which could cause the local potential difference. So when I say the non-uniformity of the microstructure, so this basically affects, indicates the composition or the different elements that you use during the manufacturing process. So here you can see the ferrite phase and cementite phase that we have. So you have the ferrite here, you have the cementite phase. So which in a microscopic level, if you look at the steel, so you can look at these compositions. So you will have ferrite phase and cementite phase. So here in this case, the electrons would move from ferrite to the cementite. So here this basically acts, this ferrite acts as a anode, and then this cementite acts as a cathode. So this portion starts losing its ion Fe2 plus, and thus it acts as a anode. So now the electrons are coming to this cementite, and this will act as the cathode, and this will lead to the formation of OH minus ion, and then that OH minus ion will react with this Fe2 plus coming from the anode, and that will lead to the formation of rust. So this can happen in any steel if, which you look at the microstructural level. We look at non-uniformity of electrolyte due to electrolyte concentrations. So some of in case of the concrete, so where you can have your reinforcement embedded in it, so that will be subjected to alkaline environment, right? So some of the regions, so if there is a difference in the electrolyte, so some of the regions which can become as more acidic, and some of the region that can become less acidic or more alkaline. So in that case, if you have a difference in that alkalinity or a difference in pH, that may lead to the formation of potential difference. So here in this case, you can see the pH is maintained by hydrogen ions. In this case, you have chlorides. So for example, if you have sodium chloride content is more in your concrete, so then you may have a similar scenario. And in some cases, we have a corrosion inhibitor. So in concrete, if you add any special admixtures to prevent or to inhibit the corrosion, so you may add inhibitors in the form of calcium nitrate. So when you have hydrogen ions more in this region and less in this region, and this will lead to the formation of potential difference. So here you have more energy, so this will start acting as the anode, right? Similarly, when you have chloride ions, this will start acting as anode. Whereas when you have corrosion inhibitors, so the role of corrosion inhibitors is that to prevent the corrosion to occur in particular location. So if the corrosion inhibitors is not distributed uniformly in your concrete, and if that is getting accumulated in one particular part of your concrete, and if you have less in the other part of your structure, then wherever you have more, that region basically inhibits the corrosion, and wherever you have less, there the potential difference will be more, and that will act as the anode region. So these are some examples which illustrates you the different environmental condition that we can expect at the interface level. So when we have steel embedded in same concrete. Next condition case is that physical conditions. So the non-uniformity in the physical conditions that we have. So this basically represents when we have steel rebars manufactured from the industry. So when it is exposed to the atmospheric condition, because while manufacturing the steel rebar, that will undergo several processes under different temperature conditions. So when it is exposed to the atmospheric condition, there will be a slight rust formation on the steel surface. So those are typically called as mill scale. So those represents the irregularities at the steel surface, and that is called mill scale. And all the reinforcement that we use will have such thin mill scale on its surface, right? So this is on the surface, and then when you have it on the steel part, the same steel material will have two different physical conditions, one on the surface and one at the interface, or whatever that is there inside material. So here you can see in detail about this non-uniformity in the physical conditions. So one, we will have the mill scale formation on the surface, and then wherever we have the rib formations. So there you will not have such exposed conditions. So in that case, the irregularities at the steel concrete interface could lead to potential differences. So here this portion basically represents your reinforcing steel, and then you have your concrete here, and this particular section, so this basically represents your steel concrete interface. So when you have such things, so this may lead to the formation of lot of air voids. So you can see here a mill scale and a pre-existing rust layer with small cracks and crevices, right? And then in the rib portion, so wherever we have this reinforcement, the ribs are provided to enhance the bond strength, right? Especially at the interface. So in such cases, these ribs wherever we have, so that will change its physical conditions. So you may observe certain water collections under the rib, so that will lead to bleed water zone. And then you may have some air voids, depending on the compaction that you do. And these all things would lead to the different environmental condition and the same material at the interface level. So these occur because of the difference between the physical conditions on the surface and the inside. So the irregularities at the steel concrete that could lead to the potential difference, and further that will lead to the formation of corrosion, initiation of corrosion. So when we have such corrosion, so why is it harmful for reinforced concrete? Oh, because so this basically represents how the rust formations lead to the pressure initiation. So where you have the iron metal, and when it is reacting, it will form iron oxide, and it further reacts, it will get changed into different forms of iron oxides and hydroxides. So as the reaction takes place, you can see the increase in volume. So this basically represents increase in rust volume. So the rust volume keep on increasing as the reaction is continuing, and you can see almost it can increase up to 6. So the 6 times the initial rust formation. So here the red ring basically represents the steel rebar embedded in concrete, and where it starts corroding. So initiation of corrosion. So as the corrosion initiates, so initially it will be like a thin ring, and due to the reaction, the ring gets growing. So the unit volume of the rust formation will be increasing. So beyond a time, beyond a certain limit, the concrete, that is the hardened concrete, that cannot withstand the expansive pressure. So as the volume is increasing, that is going to induce some expansive pressure to the surrounding concrete. So that is what it is indicated here. So as the volume increases, this is inducing an expansive pressure to the surrounding concrete. So since the volume is about 6 times the initial volume, the pressure induced will be significant, which could lead to the formation of cracking. So these are some of the examples where you can see a lot of corrosion cracks. So this is for stones. So the stone, so in general, those have huge compressive strength compared to concrete. So in such cases, if the corrosion can lead to cracking in stones, so the concrete cannot withstand such expansive pressure for developing the cracks. So you can see this was the structure constructed using a masonry structure in Croatia. So where a lot of corrosion cracks have been observed due to the expansive pressure. And these are some common examples where you can see a lot of corrosion is that sun shadow. So you can see the concrete has fallen due to the expansive force. So this basically indicates the delamination of concrete. So initially, due to the expansive forces, due to the rest volume increase, there will be expansive pressure, which will lead to cracking and further delamination, and over a certain stage it will lead to swelling of concrete. So then you will not see any concrete that has to protect the steel not be there. So the bare steel is visible, the bare corroded steel is visible to the naked eye. So these are some other examples which sensitize the severity of corrosion, which could lead to concrete spalling. And further you can see the rebars exposed to the environment. So once it has attained this stage, then the further reaction will be very faster, and that may lead to reduce the performance significantly. So what is the reason for this type of cracking? So here this is an example of a residential building where the clothes were dried. So here the dripping of water from the clothes, so that leads to the acceleration of corrosion, because you need to have water and moisture for corrosion to occur. So here this particular portion will be subjected to constant moisture and oxygen environment, so the corrosion process will be higher. So the corrosion will be accelerated by this action, and that will lead to severe damage. So that's all about corrosion. Here I would like to end by summarizing it. So we have looked at the importance or significance of the cost involved in corrosion, and what are the things that we can so the need for corrosion management. So I have shown some case studies, so which emphasizes the need for corrosion management to prevent and to prevent the damages, and to prevent the number of repair work required, and to enhance the structural performance of your structure. And then the fundamentals of corrosion: what is the corrosion, the mechanism behind it, and bore bias diagram, and what are the things that would cause a potential difference which will lead to initiation of corrosion, and the expansive nature of rust particles and cracking. And this is one of the statements that is given by one of the pioneer who has worked in this corrosion for several decades, Professor David Trejo. So he has emphasized that so a lot of engineers are trying to give importance only to the strength of the structure. But he has emphasized that influence of next generation civil engineer is to design not only for strength but also for durability with minimum maintenance. So it is very important, we have to give importance to both strength and durability, so that we can meet the required performance for longer durations with minimum maintenance. And yeah, so this is an acknowledgement to Professor Pillai, and these are some references you can go through for getting more contents about this section. Alright, so in next class we will look at detail about different types of corrosion that we have. So chloride induced corrosion, the mechanism behind chloride induced corrosion, and then carbon induced corrosion. Right? Anything else? Yeah, I will share the PDF. Fine. We'll meet on Friday at 12:30.